Okay, welcome back to the Two-Line Pass. Today I get to talk about one of my favorite players in this draft, Zeev Buium. He went 12th overall to the Minnesota Wild, who slid up one spot to get him over Philadelphia. I personally can't find a fourth player in this draft that I like over Buium. It's him, it's Celebrini, and it's Demidov. Again, I imagine there's highlight reels already out there, so I don't want to go there, but I want to talk about a couple of pieces to his game that give me a lot of hope about his upside. I want to try to illustrate some of the progression that I've seen over the year. And saying that, I was really high on him early. I had him top 15, top 12 in October, and he ended up top 5. So I was wire to wire on him, and I remain there even after doing this video. So beyond his hockey IQ, which is through the roof, I really like Buium for what I call his technical experimentation during the course of the year. Buium takes things that he works on in practice and really applies them in game. And it's all kinds of new stuff all the time. And that's how you develop a dynamic skill set. And a dynamic skill set is rare. It's always in high demand, especially when you combine it with his hockey IQ. Skill acquisition happens primarily in practice. Like, that's where you develop skills. And then what you do is you take those skills and concepts and you apply them in game. If you work on a bunch of advanced stuff in practice and then in the game you just bank it off the glass every time, are you really a better player? And as a coach, are you really developing a player to do well? No, you're just making a player that's good at practice. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a game from earlier this season, a mid-October game against Boston College. Even the lights aren't fully warmed up yet there, and compare some concepts to a tournament game in March against St. Cloud State. I wasn't after anything in particular here. I actually had someone pick these games at random, and we're just going to take a look and we're going to dive in. So here we go. All right, so let's check out the early game versus BC. Fairly straightforward puck retrieval with some pressure. Now let's freeze it here. Now it's easy to throw this into your partner's lap and let him figure out that he has an open man on the weak side. But Buium wants to take responsibility. He wants to lead the pairing, even though this is like his 4th game in D1 hockey. If you've seen some of my other videos, you may have already spotted the mistake. But first and foremost, he hasn't figured out how to break the speed of his opponent. And if we look at the forechecker's wheels, he can eat up both Buium and the partner. Roll for 1 second. This is tough. Now we're the last guy, and we're under heavy fire, and we're losing body position. With the forechecker going inside now, Buium gets a chance to pull the ripcord safely on this play because he gets a chance to protect or pick for his partner a bit. But it's still dicey because now they're so tight. He comes through the forechecker for one last pick attempt, and it's enough to get the exit. Okay, now we're going to fast forward to the later game against St. Cloud State. Now, this is an even tougher spot because he's got to track the puck, play it with his glove, and turn against the pressure. This is harder. All right, so what do we notice here that's different? Puck protection looks a little cleaner, but I love the initial faux contact point. Now, let's get a definition there because that's a weird thing to say. An initial faux contact point, the attacker or puck carrier initiating contact with the defender for the purposes of breaking their stride, knocking them off balance, or otherwise gaining an advantage that the attacker will then work off or pivot against while the defender is disadvantaged. Let's see how he uses it. Okay, stride and speed are broken. Puck protection is still engaged. See ya. But here comes contestant number 2. Thanks for coming out. It's an unassisted zone exit coupled with an against-the-grain entry pass. Pretty slick, especially for a player where some suggest skating concerns. More on that later. Okay, so here we go again quickly. Puck gets lost out the center, neutral zone regroup opportunity. Puck is really in line with the sternum here as opposed to behind the back hip. So if you don't have the most explosive skating, which he doesn't, but you want to play on your toes, you want to play north, let's be precise with our body position. Okay, we lost it there. No big deal. Now where's our puck protection? Well, we have a contested retrieval with a 5th-year senior who would finish the year in the AHL. Let's see how it goes. Fights him off through the turn, trades paint without losing stride, keeps the play moving north, successful zone entry. I can't ask for much more there. This was well done, and he was rewarded for his efforts. We'll take a look at the slow-mo, too. I mean, you can't ask for much more out of this. I'll admit that the last one was sort of a step 2 of a 2-step process that I wanted to show. I'll explain why in a second. So sort of a tough shift here. He'll eventually come over and retrieve this. And while there's nothing explicitly wrong with this because the puck gets out, it's a little out of character for him not to hold this puck, draw a forechecker in, and wait for a play to develop. He just sort of throws it away. But let's check on the progression. So step 1 here is a lot more slick because there's deception in the retrieval process. So step 1 is really nice. The follow through is still a little rough. He probably doesn't get his desired result here. Now later in the same shift, and this is what we showed, he puts it all together from retrieval to protection to exit all in one. We used the same clip for the puck protection projection before, but here it's part of a larger retrieval process that we really like to see. Okay, also, some folks might be wondering, because it looks a little strange maybe, why he's all over the place here. Does that mean he isn't good defensively or that he doesn't have hockey sense? No, not at all. Denver plays man. And this is another factor in the talent evaluation process, is what are the team tactics? Let's use Sean Behrens here, the Colorado draft pick. He's on the initial entry. Now he's going to switch off and absorb the speed. Well, watch the read. Hopefully there's a call here. I suspect there is because they play it so well. Switching and communication is a big part of man defense, but Behrens is going to mark this player for the rest of the shift. Not necessarily because he absolutely has to. There are sensible switches that can be made. But I just wanted to get that out of the way because it can look a little odd. Anyway, back to Buium. Okay, so let's watch some of his work at the attack line now. All right, so he's wide open, but this is a player that really likes to push it, and I respect that. I see what he sees. If this pass goes through this player, the defense will converge on him, and it's backdoor city for Buium. The angles are a little too tight for the amount of time we have. I wish Buium was a little more patient here. Instead of diving down, provide a relief passing area for the now bracketed puck carrier. By going down rink like this, he's actually doing the work of his check form a little bit. You know, I let it roll. Of course, you can see him in the corner, and he salvages the situation with all he's got because he generally makes everything better. Again, we'll take another clip. Early season patience. To be fair, this is probably a set face-off play, and he was just taking orders, but he sort of dives face first into a pile of yuck. And then now let's see the mental and technical aspects of his progression that he added later in the year. Yeah, all right, we got it. The only other defenseman in the country that could probably hold a candle to you is Lane Hudson. You're really good. We're on notice. Even here, early season, that's a nice deke, but it's a close shave, right? Like, he almost loses that for a breakaway. Also, the deke is way to the outside. He's forced to leave the puck on the wall. The deke was successful, but is the team really that much better off? Later in the season, starts with movement to the inside before passing it outside, and then eventually this is going to wind around to him, and even though this is technically another deke to the outside, it's well within valuable ice. It improves the condition of the play and the puck in a noteworthy way, and then in the ultimate way. And before anyone asks, I have no issue with his defensive play. I haven't all year because he has the mental and the technical largely already in place. If there's a physical issue, it likely won't show itself until he's in the pros because he's too smart and too good with his stick to get in a situation where he's physically losing the battle at this level. Even this play, he has an inside track to the puck and he just wants to knock it to center and move on with his life. It goes south and they get a big scoring chance. Could he have throttled it down and let that guy go to the puck first and take inside positioning to try to stifle it that way? Sure, of course. But then maybe someone would take that clip and go, see, he's not first on pucks. He's not tough enough or whatever. You know, you look here, you know, it's kind of a similar situation. It's a little tough. But, you know, he goes in there, he digs in physically, and he does what he has to do. I have no issues with him defensively. The idea that, like, he's this small, soft, offensive defenseman. I don't know what folks are watching. I'm not saying he is Nick Lidstrom, but he is very, very competent defensively because he is so incredibly smart. Quickly on his skating, no, he's not the fastest or the most explosive skater, but his stride is very workable. He has very good small area footwork, very good edge work, surprisingly good balance. Like, how often do you see him really knocked off stride? But here's the thing, his advanced proprioceptive system, that's his speed. He's probably the smartest player in this draft. So that's his first step quickness right there. You always want a better skater than a worse one, but when you anticipate the game like he does, you don't have to compensate so hard with your physical development arc. So that's what I'll say. Big fan of the Minnesota first round pick. And until next time, thanks for joining me on the Two Line Pass.